Hey, I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Books and Bubbly. This is a playlist where I drink something bubbly while I talk about a book that I get all bubbly about. And before we get to the book, I do just want to shout out what I am drinking today, and that is the Rosé Bubbles by House Wine. This is the Rainbow Edition, and they are donating a portion of the proceeds to the Human Rights Campaign. So just wanted to give them a little shout out for that because I think that's awesome. Plus, it's just such a super cute can. Okay, well, let's get on to the book. As today I am talking about Tell Me What You Did by Carter Wilson. I'm going to give another shout out to both the Book Drop and Scribbler, as I now have 2 copies of this fantastic book, as both of them chose this book to be their, I think it was the March shipment for both of them. So luckily, this was my last book that I did get from Scribbler. It is a little unfortunate that it's a duplicate, but since I love this book, I guess now I have 2 copies, so if one gets ruined or I lend one out to someone, I've still got a backup. So I do want to give a warning that there are going to be spoilers in this review. If you do want a spoiler-free version of this review because you plan to read this, and you most definitely should, be sure to check out my What I Read in March video. I typically don't do spoilers in those reviews. Those are more just high level, but this one I will be going into spoilers and revealing certain things that if you want to go into this book blind, you might want to stop watching now. But if you want to know what's going on or you've already read it, here we go. So let's start off by seeing what the book promised to be about. She gets people to confess their crimes for a living. He knows she's hiding a terrible secret. It's time for the truth to come out. Poe Webb, host of a popular true crime podcast, invites people to anonymously confess crimes they've committed to her audience. She can't guarantee the police won't come after her guests, but her show grants simultaneous anonymity and instant fame, a potent combination that's proven difficult to resist. After an episode recording, Poe usually erases both criminal and crime from her mind. But when a strange and oddly familiar man appears on her show, Poe is forced to take a second look. Not only because he claims to be her mother's murderer from years ago, but because Poe knows something no one else does. Her mother's murderer is dead. Poe killed him. From the USA Today bestselling author of The Dead Girl in 2A and The New Neighbor comes a chilling new thriller that forces the question, are murderers always the bad guys? So honestly, I thought this was like Listen for the Lie meets Saw, and I was totally here for it. The antagonist is a man who introduces himself as Ian, and he is so creepy and wants to terrify Poe and get her to confess to this crime. And he is supremely creepy and terrifying. The vivid description of this guy just made my skin crawl. Like, he loves scaring her. He enjoys riling her up and messing with her, and he just has this attitude about it that he doesn't really care. He has nothing to lose. So why not go all in and terrorize her? I also really did love how the podcast really fit in with the story and basically is the entire frame around the entire story. I thought it worked really well. We get transcripts of it. She talks about it. I thought it worked really well here. I know there's quite a few people that don't love podcast formats. I thought it worked. And again, Listen for the Lie I enjoyed. So I guess I really do just like true crime podcasty stories. All right, so I'm going to be diving into spoilers now, even though the back cover copy kind of gives it away. But Poe hosts a podcast where she talks to people who want to confess to their crimes. She honestly uses her podcast in a sense to feel better about her own self and her crime of taking a man's life, even if he too was also a murderer. Now, the man whose life she took is that of obviously the man who murdered her mother, so she feels justified in her crime. She wants to understand why people do what they do so that she can better understand what she did and herself at the same time. And this is where I have to say that I absolutely loved Poe. I feel like she's going to be a polarizing person. Like, either you absolutely love her or you are not going to be able to stand her. I loved her because she is so sarcastic and such a fighter, and I love to see it. Her dialogue really sounded like something I would say, so I really related to her so much. Minus being a criminal. I've never killed anybody. I just thought she was so funny. She's fierce and feisty. And again, she reminds me a lot of Lucy from The Lie, and I absolutely loved her too. I guess I really just like my leading ladies, like super witty and really protective of themselves. Poe is also pretty morally gray, but she does stand by her decisions and her convictions. She would make the same choices again, as she knows that they were the right choices. Though I do kind of have to call out that she even talks about the too stupid to live trope in books, but at times, sometimes she makes decisions that qualify her as a too stupid to live character. Like there are times when she should call the police, or at least like her dad, and she doesn't, and then is all, oh no, it was a trap and no one knows where I am. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, like come on, Poe. You can't bring up the trope and then go right in its face. Doesn't work like that. But going back to the setup, so Poe has her podcast and her producer / boyfriend, Kip, tells her about her next interview with a guest, and even Kip is like creeped out by this caller, who ends up being Ian, who is the man who claims to be her mother's killer. Ian does his little like evil mustache twirling monologue, feeding Poe a story about being like even a real creep when he was a kid and like picking the wings off of like insects. She asks basically like, okay, like what is your confession? And he tells her his crime is stealing her mother's life. Poe immediately ends the call and just starts freaking out because it cannot be true. It can't be true. Her mother's killer is dead himself. Poe's the one who did this. She knows that this guy cannot be alive. She hunted him, poisoned him, and buried him in the woods. She is confident that she got the right guy. Well, maybe. She's like in the 70% range that she got the right guy. That there's a little wiggle room. Maybe it wasn't. And then Ian starts telling her things that only the killer would know. That only someone intimate with her mother would know. And he seems to know about what she would confess if the tables were turned. The fact that she thinks she got the right guy. So when Poe was younger, she found out that her mother was having an affair. She was snooping through her mom's emails and found out, and was, suddenly told, like, go play outside, go to a friend's house for a little bit. It's just the middle of the day. Like, you don't be in the home. And so Poe agrees, as she basically wanted to catch her mom in the act to make her feel guilty over it and get her mom to stop doing this. It's not exactly that Poe wanted to humiliate her mom. She just wanted her mom to stop engaging in this behavior. So Poe sneaks back into the house after some time, and here's her mom and her mom's friend upstairs. So she goes to make her presence known, but her mom isn't exactly crying from pleasure, she is crying out in pain. So Poe pokes her head in, and disgustingly so, witnesses the entire thing. She sees this monster stabbing her mother, and then he sees her. He lets her live, but tells her that she must not tell anyone. Not the police, not her father, or he will come back and they can all be buried together as a family. She never tells anyone what she saw that day, and then the guy basically sets their house on fire to help destroy some of the evidence. And so Poe never says anything because she is terrified that this guy will make good on his promise. So then when she's a young adult, Poe sets off for New York, as she had read in an email exchange between her mom and her mom's killer that he wanted to move to New York. She has no real set plan. She just wants to find him, but soon realizes that just hoping she's going to magically run into this guy isn't exactly panning out. So she has to get a bit more proactive about her revenge plot. So she starts setting up like dating profiles in order to like lure him in. She starts going to the gym so she can be strong enough to win in a fight against him, and is basically treating this guy like her prey. She even uses her mother's photo as her dating profile picture as bait. She only knows the killer as this guy named Leopold Hutchins, and that's when she gets a message from Leonard Avery. Leopold, Leonard, they're pretty similar, and the fact that this guy responded to her mother's picture. They go on a date, and she is sure that it is him, and she cannot wait to see him suffer. She stocks up on rat poison and invites him to her apartment for a second date. She feeds him the laced food and watches in horror as he dies. Extremely slowly and in excruciating pain. And while he's dying, she feels nothing. She doesn't feel a lot of compassion for him, but she also doesn't regret what she has done. She is fine with him losing his life. But at the same time, she still has her humanity. This is definitely weighing on her. While she doesn't regret her decision to end his life, it still is a major trauma for her. So she ends up leaving New York and just needs to feel that sense of freedom, but she's also feeling very lonely. It's not like she can go tell people what she has done. She is spiraling and constantly worried that the police are going to show up at her door. Now, I do want to give a trigger warning, as there is talk of an accidental overdose in this, but Poe does survive it. But if that is something that would be uncomfortable for you to read, please skip over that page. It's around the 200 mark. Like on page 214, she says, "The next day I got rid of the pills, deciding there was nothing to do but move forward. Either I was going to be okay or not, but I couldn't spend my life wondering which of those it would be. She has to move on. What's done is done. She can't bring this guy back." So she starts the podcast, and everything is going fine until the day Ian shows up and drops this bomb on everything that she thought she knew. Poe lets him be on the show because she wants her listeners to find him before he finds her. You know, most of these are armchair detectives who will be looking for the smallest clue in the background of his video, looking for anything that they can find that would lead him or would lead the police to this guy. She is depending on these people to come to her rescue. So he confesses his crime and then kind of turns around and asks Poe, "Can you do the same? Tell your listeners who you really are. Tell your listeners what you are actually capable of as you ask people to commit or confess to their crimes." Poe obviously refuses. I mean, she's not a total moron. And that's when Ian really lets her know that she's not the one calling the shots here. Through small reveals, she realizes that he has been breaking into her home and leaving her messages, such as on the back of her mother's framed picture. He is playing with her, but he's also getting pretty tired of these games. He wants the truth. He wants to know why she took an innocent man's life, as Ian claims to be Leopold. It gets to a point that Poe and her father, who is now staying with her out of fear for her safety, get an Airbnb, yet Ian knows this, and he follows them. He attempts to kidnap Poe's dad, but has to abandon his plans when, a cop coincidentally drives by. He then ups the ante by kidnapping Kip and threatening to harm him should Poe not play by Ian's rules. Obviously, she's going to agree because she wants to save her boyfriend's life and admits to what she has done on her podcast. On a live stream on Halloween night. Truly, that's one thing. I wish I had saved this for Halloween, knowing that it took place around that time, because, this would have been such a good read. But I'm also so glad I already read it, because this is such a fantastic book. Anyway, she confesses to taking Leopold Hutchins / Leonard Avery's life. She still believes that she got the right guy, and that Ian is not who he says he is. She doesn't understand how he knows all of these details, but she does not believe that he is actually the guy who murdered her mother. Afterward, a fan does share who Ian really is, and Ian's real name is John Warbley, who isn't Leopold, but is Leopold's brother. This is why he wanted to hunt Poe. He wanted to know what happened to his brother, because from his perspective, his brother just disappeared, never to be seen again. The police have no leads, and they're not really doing anything to look for him. But we do find out that obviously John loves his brother if he's concocted this elaborate scheme to get Poe to admit to it. They were still talking, and when Poe had set up her date with Leonard, he knew who she was, first of all, because she used her mom's photo, and then when he met her, realizing that, that's her daughter, he was also probably going to plan to murder her too. He was going to play with her for a little bit, and again, just plan to terrorize her. So I don't really feel bad that he ended up dying. But Ian obviously could never confirm this. He never found out. He wanted to know if she is the one who actually did it. And then Poe has a realization about where Kip is being held hostage, goes to save him, Again, see my earlier, like, too stupid to live kind of point, because she doesn't tell anyone what she's doing. She just decides to be the hero and go off and save him. But, like, girl, the police are aware of what's going on. Like, maybe just call one of them and tell them, like, I'm gonna go try and save Kip, but, like, can you just be hanging out for, like, a few minutes? She does end up saving Kip, even though Ian, or John, whatever we want to call him now, has stabbed him in the stomach. And then she takes Ian's life as well. She knows that this guy is not going to let her rest, even though he now knows the truth of what happened to his brother. He basically said, like, I'll let you go if you tell me what you actually did. She knows that this is not the end. Like, he will continue to terrorize her. Just like his brother, Ian is a monster as well. And Poe's not going to let him live. She will destroy him. She won't let her father or Kip do it, as they've never taken a life before, and Poe will carry that burden for everyone. And she does carry it. Right to prison. She does serve time, but it is reduced given that one was in self-defense, and the other was kind of taking out a known serial killer. But essentially, Poe is at peace now. She knows for sure that she got her mother's killer and no longer has to carry this secret. She is free of this monster and this monstrous secret. She knows redemption isn't black and white, and she's not a comic book hero. She didn't take the high road and let Ian live, because she couldn't, and she is okay with that. She's very hopeful about her future and now what she can do with her life once she gets out of prison. I mean, all in, I really loved how complex this was. I loved the cat and mouse games and the escalation between her and Ian, kind of like their little battle of wits. Like, Ian, even though he made my skin crawl, he kind of reminded me of some of my favorite villains from shows. And one of my favorite villains is Lucifer from Supernatural. He's just kind of indifferent and has a wisecracker personality. He laughs when, like, Poe lashes out at him or calls him names. Like, he really likes provoking people and seeing what he can get them to do, because in his head it's kind of all a game. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't care what's going to happen to him. So why not go down having fun? Like, he does have a sense of humor, and again, kind of just lets her call him names and laughs at it, but he can also flip a switch and become cruel and downright scary. He expects to triumph over Poe and is so arrogant about it. And to me, that makes a pretty good villain. Like, he kind of has his blinders on. He doesn't see that she may be able to best him, or that she may be willing to kill him as well. I also think the non-linear timeline worked really well in this book. We switched between the live stream on Halloween night, a few weeks before leading up to the podcast night, and the past when Poe was in New York and hunting Leonard. It was easy to keep track of the different timelines, and I loved how the transcripts work so well as Poe talks of her past with Kip and Dad, and the chapters just play so well together and keep that tension and air of suspense really high. I did note, though, that about the 60% mark, the book does start to slow down a bit, drag a little, and it kind of just feels like I'm walking through mud as we slowly make progress, but we're also kind of like stuck looking at the same landscape. Outside of this one slowdown, though, I felt that the book was very well paced and obviously very well plotted. Everything lines up very well, all the motivations work, and again, the characterization in this, it's fantastic. I also think the writing style makes for a quick read, as many sentences are their own lines, so it keeps things moving. But at the same time, I do wonder how many trees could have been saved by combining some of these sentences. Like, not everything has to be its own line. Again, it does make it feel like the book is moving along at a faster clip, but let's think of the environment, Wilson, maybe next time. I mean, you live in Colorado, man. Come on. We're pretty green here. But I also do think that the writing was extremely beautiful, and I marked quite a few pages just because I was so moved by the words. Like, let's see, we've got... So like on page 52, I suddenly felt desperate. My breathing labored. It's both remarkable and horrifying how defense mechanisms can be shed in an instant, easy as a bathrobe falling around one's feet. I spend my life on guard, my eyes scanning every room I walk into. My conversations with others mostly consist of sarcasm and profanity, the combination of which throws up a shield few penetrate. I live a life purposely isolated, just to minimize the chances of being caught in a vulnerable moment. Sometimes I even lie to my dog. Or, let's see. On page 70, I suddenly feel so heavy, like I'm slowly being buried alive in a deep grave. I'm dizzy from fatigue, and the burn of hopelessness is all-consuming. I've been quiet for so many years, and now all I want to do is scream as loud and long as I can. This feeling lasts perhaps a minute, but it seems so much longer. And it only begins to lift when I have a realization. I can't keep this secret any longer. And the universe knows this as well, because why else would Kip have such a skill at sussing out liars and calling me out for being one of them? It's time to talk. It might be the only thing that saves us. Might be the only thing that saves me. So then on page 216, this is a note from another character to Poe. Poe, I listened to the live event last night. You're going to be told by many people how sorry they are and how they want to help you. I'm not going to do that. I'm just writing to tell you that, based on my own experience, you shouldn't trust anyone but yourself. From listening to your show and from our brief conversation, I can tell you're someone who wants to fight. Maybe loves to fight. So now, more than ever, I encourage you to do so with every last shred of your soul. Your efforts may not be enough, but as long as you try, you will never be defeated, at least not spiritually. And really, that's all that matters. Good luck. And then I also tabbed, so her dad has this cat named Grim that she does not like cats. And he does not like her either. So on page 218, I stand over him. He looks at me. I look at him. And he's the more confident one of the two of us. I can see it. I know it. I'm not scared of you, I say again, this time manifesting what that actually looks like. It looks like my body relaxing, my gaze fixed and focused, my intentions clear and unwavering. I reach down and pet him, give him a long stroke along his back and up his neck, and then move, with some caution, up under his chin. He might bite, but in the moment, I don't care. I telegraph my intention of punching his fuzzy little head if he even tries. I won't, but that's the energy I'm giving off. And he accepts me. He doesn't look happy, but he accepts me. And maybe, I think, the cat is scared of me. We never really know how others view us, but the one certain thing is that it's rarely how we expect. And then on page 317, she's talking about potentially not doing the live stream with Ian because things are escalating pretty bad. And so then she's telling Kip, her producer / boyfriend, to keep this guy on the line. So keep promoting the live stream, get everything in place, even though you're not going to do it. I want him convinced I'm going to be a part of it until the moment I don't show. He clears his throat. Going to be a lot of disappointed viewers. I'm trying not to define my happiness by measuring theirs, I tell him. And no matter what happens, don't let Ian go from the green room to being live. Even though I'm not showing up, he's not going to be in front of my audience. I don't want to give him any kind of platform. And then on page 359, so Ian, his last name is Hinley. So whatever Hinley's reasons, I'm the center of all his rage. And now that rage has spilled over to those I care about. He almost abducted Dad. He succeeded in abducting Kip. Hurt him. Maybe killed him. I'm transported back 17 years. I knew about my mother's affair. I'd read the emails. I could have confronted her as soon as I found out rather than waited to catch her in the act. I waited, and she died because I did. I'm so fucking sorry, I whisper. How easy it would be to cry, to sit here and sob, and how equally useless that would be. I'm about to scream in frustration when I stop myself, knowing I'd only scared Dad half to death. Instead, I look out my office window again, searching for answers that won't be there. And then lastly, on page 394, this is when she's about to take Ian's life. But this is self-defense. Hinley living is a permanent threat to my life. You'll regret this, 1,000 voices say. You'll live the rest of your life with the guilt of what you've done. You're not like him. You're better than this. But these voices, they belong to all those ignorant viewers streaming popcorn thrillers on TV, expecting their heroes to do the noble thing in the end. They want to be like their heroes, picturing themselves in the character's shoes, commending themselves for doing the right thing, for shunning violent temptations in order to achieve some brittle and thin-shelled redemption. But they don't know me. They don't know that I've done this before and lived, not in guilt, but only fear of being caught. They don't know that sometimes the path to redemption is forged in poison and bullets. I no longer care about being caught. I embrace who I am and what I'm about to do. I will wear my actions with a badge of honor, and if I spend the rest of my life in prison, I'll still prefer that to knowing that Hindley still breathes. So I just think some of this writing is so fantastic. I had to reread certain things. It really jumped out and it really stuck with me. So kudos, Wilson. Great writing. In the end, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I was gripped by the plot and the characters, and I really stayed up until like 1 a.m. quite a few nights to finish reading this, as it was just so good, and I wanted to see how it would all resolve in the end. This book was unsettling, intense, dark, thrilling, and again, some of the writing and the quotes just really made me think. Now, I do want to provide one last content warning, as there is a big focus on using alcohol and drinking to cope with tough things. A few of the characters turn to drinking to handle what's going on, and if that could be challenging to read for some people, I do want to say potentially this book could be a trigger for you. I'm also going to say that there is a dog in this, and there is a scene that I thought was going to make me not finish it because I thought the dog was in danger, but Bailey the dog is a-okay in the end. If you do have any recommendations for like other thrillers with truly snarky main characters or about true crime podcasts, because apparently I really enjoy that, I would love to hear about them. Please drop your recommendations in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for joining me at Books and Bubbly.